Marcus Thorne did not like being late. For 20 years in business, he had built an empire on precision, discipline, and impeccable timing. His group of companies, a network of 7 branches across the country, ran like a fine-tuned Swiss watch. Every meeting, every contract, every handshake was calculated down to the minute. This morning promised to be a turning point. Representatives from a major investment fund had flown in from New York specifically for negotiations on expansion. $5 million, new markets, reaching a national level. Everything Marcus had been working toward for the last 3 years. The meeting was scheduled for 10 in the morning at the Drake Hotel. Being late was out of the question. At 8:30, Marcus stepped out of his mansion, buttoning his blazer. The September morning greeted him with soft sunshine and a light breeze. Perfect weather for a perfect deal. His driver, Elias, was already standing by the black Mercedes, punctual and collected as always. "Good morning, Mr. Thorne." Elias greeted him, but the expression on his face was unusually tense. "Something happen?" Marcus caught the anxiety in the driver's voice even before he spoke. "Boss, we have a problem." Elias spread his hands apologetically. "The car won't start. I already called the mechanic, but he says it's the electronics. We need a diagnostic. Minimum 2 hours." Marcus looked at his watch. 8:35. There was a little over an hour left before the meeting, and the drive took at least 40 minutes accounting for traffic. "Call a car service, immediately. Business class." Marcus's voice was calm but firm. Elias already had his phone to his ear. "Ordering now. Mr. Thorne, I apologize. I checked everything last night. The car was running perfectly." "Technology breaks. It happens." Marcus waved a hand, cutting off the excuse. "The main thing is the solution." 7 minutes later, a silver Toyota Camry with a rideshare sticker pulled up to the gates. Marcus grabbed his briefcase and headed for the car. Elias opened the door, and then Marcus froze for a second. A young woman was sitting behind the wheel. That was unexpected. Marcus was used to business-class drivers in the morning hours, being experienced middle-aged men who knew the city and knew how to stay quiet. But here was a lady of about 30, with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail and an attentive gaze in her brown eyes. "Good morning." She turned around when Marcus sat in the back seat. "The Drake Hotel?" "Correct," Marcus nodded, pulling out his phone. "Try to avoid traffic." "I'll do everything possible." There was no fawning in her voice, only professional confidence. The car moved smoothly. The young woman drove confidently, without jerking or unnecessary lane changes. Marcus briefly noted this. "You can feel a good driver immediately." He buried himself in his phone, reviewing the latest edits to the presentation. For the first 15 minutes, they drove in silence. Marcus appreciated that. Not all drivers understood that a passenger might not want conversation. But when the car got stuck in a jam on Lakeshore Drive, he looked up and caught the lady's attentive gaze in the rearview mirror. "Rare to see women driving business class," Marcus said quietly, mostly to fill the pause. "Rare, but it happens." She turned on her blinker, deftly moving into the right lane where the flow was moving a little faster. "It's a job like any other. I've been behind the wheel a long time. 10 years, 8 of them professionally." Her voice was even, without unnecessary emotion, but Marcus caught something else, a slight bitterness perhaps, as if there was a whole story hidden behind that phrase. "Did you come straight to driving rideshare?" he asked, not really understanding why he was interested. The woman fell silent, then shook her head. "No, I used to work as a driver for a large firm. Corporate transport, business trips, stability, benefits. Everything proper." "Why did you leave?" She fell silent again, and Marcus was ready to go back to his phone, deciding he had touched a sore spot. But she spoke up, and her voice became quieter, more cautious. "I didn't leave. I was fired." "For what reason?" "Officially? A disciplinary violation. In reality—" She stopped, as if weighing whether it was worth continuing. Then she sighed. "In reality, the branch manager's wife fired me." Marcus looked up. Now his attention was fully on the conversation. The manager's wife? Does she have that kind of authority? Directly, no. But when you have influence and connections, you don't need official authority. Fatigue sounded in the young woman's voice. She told her husband. Her husband told HR, and HR found a reason. Simple as that. And what did you do to turn the manager's wife against you? The woman looked in the rearview mirror again, and their eyes met. In her eyes, Marcus saw not resentment, but rather a weary understanding of injustice. I accidentally saw her lover, she said simply. Marcus froze. The traffic jam had cleared, and the car was moving faster, but he no longer noticed the road. Accidentally? Completely. I was taking documents to the head office and stopped at a shopping center. I needed to pick up a package, and I see a car parked in the lot, and in the back seat, a man and a woman are kissing. I didn't pay attention at first, but then I recognized her. It was my manager's wife. She often came to the branch. I drove her a couple of times. And what did you do? Nothing, the young woman shrugged. I turned away and went about my business. But she noticed me. Apparently, our eyes met for a second. And 3 days later, I was called into the manager's office and told that I had spoken rudely to clients. They invented witnesses, drew up a report. I tried to explain, but it was useless. I was fired in 2 days. Fast, Marcus noted. Very fast. Too fast for a regular violation, she nodded. But I didn't argue. I realized it was useless. When people with influence are playing against you, it's better to just walk away. Marcus listened, and shards of a strange mosaic began to come together in his head. He asked the next question almost mechanically, but already sensing that the answer would change everything. What was the name of this firm? The woman said the name. Marcus went cold. It was his company, his group of companies. One of the 7 branches he personally oversaw and took pride in. He slowly straightened up in his seat, thinking, trying to evaluate the information. This woman worked as a driver in his structure, in one of the branches where he rarely visited, at most once a quarter for planned meetings. They really couldn't have crossed paths personally, but this was his business, his people, his responsibility. And someone among the wives of his branch managers was influential enough to fire employees at will. Do you know the name of this man? The lover? Marcus's voice sounded different now, harder, more demanding. The woman shook her head. No, I only saw him for a few seconds. But he was distinctive. Tall, athletic, dark hair, and a tattoo on his neck. A tongue of flame, I think. Hard to forget something like that. A tattoo on the neck, a tongue of flame. Marcus exhaled. That description fit only one person in his circle, a person he trusted, whom he considered a partner, whom he had let into his business 5 years ago when he needed investments and connections. Julian Vane, his partner. But what did the branch manager's wife have to do with this? Marcus tried to remember who headed the branch the woman had named, Kevin O'Shea. A competent manager, about 40, had been working in the company for 3 years, and his wife. Marcus didn't remember her face, but he knew for a fact that she was friends with Jasmine, with his wife. They went to corporate parties together, went shopping, talked on the phone. Jasmine had once mentioned that Elena O'Shea was a smart woman who understood business, that she gave her husband sound advice on work, and now it turned out that this Elena was meeting with Julian. The lover of the branch manager's wife was Marcus's own partner. And Jasmine? What did Jasmine have to do with this? The question hung in the air, but Marcus didn't dare voice the answer even to himself yet. The car stopped. They had arrived. The Drake Hotel, the woman said, looking straight ahead. Marcus looked at his watch. 9:45, 15 minutes to spare. He reached for his briefcase but didn't rush to get out. What is your name? He asked. Nia Prentice. Nia, I have a strange request for you. Marcus took out a business card and wrote a personal phone number on the back. Do not discuss this story with anyone, absolutely anyone, and call me this evening. I want to talk to you in more detail. Nia took the card, looked at it, then at Marcus. Surprise flickered in her eyes. You're Marcus Thorne, the CEO. Yes. She went pale. I didn't know. I just told you. You told the truth, Marcus interrupted her. And this truth might turn out to be very important. Call me. Promise? Naya nodded slowly. I promise. Marcus got out of the car, paid through the app with a generous tip, and headed for the hotel entrance. But his thoughts were no longer on the upcoming negotiations. They were on the fact that a random breakdown of a company car had just opened a door for him into a world he didn't suspect existed. A world where his wife might be linked to betrayal, where his partner was playing a double game, where honest people were fired because they accidentally saw what they shouldn't have seen. Marcus went up to the conference room, greeted the fund representatives, and laid out the presentation. The investors were serious, asking precise questions, studying the numbers, demanding justifications. Usually, Marcus felt like a fish in water in such situations. Numbers, facts, strategy, his element. But today, something had changed. He answered clearly, provided the necessary arguments, demonstrated growth charts. Outwardly, everything went perfectly. The investors nodded, made notes, exchanged meaningful glances. The head of the fund, a gray-haired man with a shrewd gaze, even smiled when Marcus showed the forecast for 3 years ahead. Impressive, he said, especially considering you started small. Marcus nodded, accepting the compliment, but for the entire hour the negotiations lasted. One thought pulsed in the depths of his consciousness. This wasn't random gossip from a taxi driver. This was a thread, and if he pulled on it hard enough, he could unravel the whole ball. When the meeting ended with handshakes and a promise to send final terms by the end of the week, Marcus went down to the hotel lobby and stopped by the window. The city was living its usual life. Cars, people, the hustle. But for him, something had broken this morning. Broken not just in the company car, broken in the picture of the world he considered unshakable. Marcus took out his phone and dialed the number of Tyrell Vance, the company's head of security. He answered after the first ring. Tyrell, I need to meet with you. Today. Urgent and confidential, Marcus said, looking at the stream of cars below. Understood. Your office at 3. Does that work? It works. And Tyrell, get access to all surveillance cameras for branch number 3 for the last 2 months. Pause. Something happened, Mr. Thorne? Possibly. We'll discuss it when we meet. Marcus put the phone away and walked out onto the street. The question was only one thing. Was he ready for what he would find at the end of this thread? And what would change in his life when he got to the answer? The meeting with Tyrell took place at exactly 3 in the afternoon. The head of security walked into the office with his usual impassiveness, a man who had seen a lot and was surprised by little. Marcus gestured to the chair across the desk. Sit down, Tyrell. Serious conversation. I'm listening, Mr. Thorne. Marcus briefly outlined the situation. The accidental breakdown of the company car, the ride in the taxi, the conversation with the female driver, the story about the firing from the branch, details about the director's wife and her lover, the meeting in the parking lot of the shopping center. She described the man in detail. Marcus looked Tyrell straight in the eyes. Tall, athletic, dark hair, and a tattoo on his neck, a tongue of fire, bright, red-orange. Tyrell looked up from his notepad. That could be Julian Vane. Exactly, Marcus nodded. Julian is the only one in our circle with such a tattoo, too distinctive a mark to be mistaken. Tyrell wrote silently, not interrupting. Marcus continued. The woman, the driver, is named Naya Prentice. She worked as a driver at our branch number 3. She was fired on July 27th, 4 days after she accidentally saw the branch manager's wife with a lover in a car. The firing was processed for a trumped-up reason, supposedly rudeness to a client, and very quickly, without an investigation. Cleaning up a witness, Tyrell said quietly. Looks like it. I need a full check on this story. Marcus leaned closer to the desk. First, pull the security camera footage from the parking lot of the Gallery Shopping Center for July 23rd, roughly between 2 and 3 in the afternoon. Look for a gray taxi. If Prentice is telling the truth, Elena O'Shea and a man with a tattoo will be there. Tyrell wrote it down. Second, check everything regarding Nia Prentice's termination. Grounds, documents, reports. Who specifically initiated it? Talk to HR at the branch, but carefully, so as not to raise any noise. Find out who pressured the decision. Understood. Third, pull all data on Julian Vane's visits to the branch over the last 3 months. When he arrived, who he met with, how much time he spent. Check the pass system and surveillance cameras. Okay. Anything else? Marcus thought for a moment. Yes, check the phone contacts between Julian Vane and Elena O'Shea. If she had a corporate plan, the call logs should be there. Consider it done. Tyrell closed his notebook and looked at Marcus. How much time do I have? 2 days maximum. I need facts, not guesses. If there is something serious there, I need to know for sure. Understood. Starting work right now. Tyrell stood up, but turned at the door. Mr. Thorne, if your suspicions are confirmed, are you ready for the consequences? Marcus nodded. Ready. Better to know the truth than live in ignorance. Then until we meet. Tyrell left, leaving Marcus alone with his thoughts. Nia called at exactly 8 in the evening. Marcus was sitting in his office looking at the city lights. After the meeting with Tyrell Vance, he hadn't been able to focus on work. The head of security promised to provide the first results tomorrow by lunch. The phone vibrated. Unknown number. Listening? This is Nia Prentice. You asked me to call. Her voice sounded unsure. Thank you for reaching out. Where are you right now? Home. Just finished my shift. Nia, I need to meet with you in person to talk in more detail about what happened at the branch. It's important. She was silent. I don't want to hurt anyone. I just want to work in peace. I understand, but if what you saw is connected to my company, I have to know the truth. The whole truth. Marcus spoke calmly, but firmly. Let's meet tomorrow morning in a neutral place, if that's more comfortable for you. Where? The Grind Cafe downtown? You know it? Yes. Does 9 in the morning work for you? It works. Great. Until tomorrow, Nia. Marcus didn't like acting blindly, but right now he had no choice. If Julian and O'Shea's wife were connected, if Jasmine was aware of this connection, if Nia's firing was an attempt to cover tracks, then this wasn't just about an affair. It was about something bigger. About influence, control, access to information. Marcus remembered how 6 months ago Jasmine suddenly started taking an interest in company affairs. Before, she had never meddled in the business. She was satisfied with the role of the successful entrepreneur's wife with her social events, shopping, and spas. But 6 months ago, she started asking questions. Who works in the branches? Who are they planning to promote? What new contracts are coming up? He had thought back then that she had simply matured, wanted to understand what he did. Now those questions looked different. Marcus stood up and walked to the window. The lights of cars shimmered below. People were rushing home after work. Somewhere out there in this huge city, Nia Prentice was driving her taxi, a random witness who could destroy his world or save it. The next morning, Marcus arrived at the cafe 10 minutes before the appointed time. He chose a table in the far corner, from where the whole room was clearly visible, but which remained secluded enough for a serious conversation. Nia appeared at exactly 9. She was dressed simply, jeans, a light jacket, hair down. Today she looked younger and more vulnerable. Good morning. Marcus stood and nodded at the chair opposite. Thank you for coming. Will you have coffee? Yes, thanks. Nia sat down, placing her bag on the next chair. Marcus called the waitress over, ordered 2 Americanos and croissants. When they were left alone, he took out a notepad. Nia, I want you to tell me everything from the very beginning, in detail. When exactly did you see the manager's wife with this man? Where was it? What was happening? Nia took a deep breath and told him again what she had seen in minute detail. Are you sure it was Elena O'Shea? Absolutely. I knew her well. She often came to the branch, sometimes asked me to drive her to the shops or the beauty salon. We even talked a few times. She seemed like a pleasant woman. And the man? Did you see him? Yes, but not as well. He was sitting with his back to the window, but when he turned, I noticed that particularly memorable tattoo on his neck. He was tall, broad-shouldered, dark hair. Marcus wrote it down. What happened next? I watched for maybe 3 seconds. Not on purpose, I was just walking by. And then Elena opened her eyes and looked right at me. Our gazes met. I turned away immediately and kept walking, as if I hadn't seen anything. Picked up the package, went back to the car, drove to my next task, thought it was just an awkward moment and that was it. But it wasn't it, Marcus said quietly. No. The next day Elena came to the branch. I saw her talking for a long time with her husband in his office. And a day later, on July 25th, I was called in to see Kevin, the director. He was sitting there gloomy, wouldn't look me in the eye, said a complaint had come in about me from a client. Supposedly, I answered someone rudely on the phone. I didn't understand what he was talking about. Asked to see this complaint, asked for the client's name. He said the complaint was verbal, but there were witnesses from the office who heard my conversation. And who were these witnesses? 2 girls from accounting, both friends of Elena. They signed a report saying they heard me being rude to a client on the phone on July 22nd. That was a Monday. But on the 22nd, I wasn't at work at all. It was my day off. I told the director that, but he replied that I was probably confusing the dates. Marcus grit his teeth. You were fired immediately? A day later. On July 27th, they gave me my severance and papers. I wanted to fight it, but realized a whole system was playing against me. The director, his wife, witnesses, HR, I was alone. What was the point? You didn't tell anyone about seeing Elena with a lover? No. I realized that was exactly why they were firing me, and if I started spreading rumors, it would only get worse. Marcus thought. The picture was coming together, clear and unpleasant. Elena O'Shea was meeting with Julian. Nia accidentally saw them. Elena got scared the secret would be revealed and took measures. Fast, harsh, without unnecessary sentiment. Used her husband, his position, connections, fabricated evidence, and kicked out the witness. But one question remained open. Nia, did you ever see my wife at the branch? Jasmine Thorne? Nia thought. Yes, a few times. She came to see Elena. They would leave together to go to lunch somewhere, probably, or shopping. I drove both of them a couple of times. They were close? Looked like it. They talked very friendly, laughed, discussed things. Elena even said once that Jasmine had helped her with some important matter. Didn't specify what exactly. Marcus felt a cold chill spread down his back. Jasmine and Elena were friends. Elena was seeing Julian. Did Jasmine know about this affair? Or worse, was she part of this scheme herself? Nia, one more question. Did you see Julian Vane come to the branch? Yes. I didn't know who he was then, but I saw the man with the tattoo on his neck at the branch once. That was about 2 weeks before that incident in the parking lot. He came to see the director. They locked themselves in the office, talked for 40 minutes. Then he left. Kevin O'Shea received him personally? Yes, and walked him to his car. It seemed to me then that they knew each other pretty well. Marcus wrote that down. So, Julian had direct contact with the branch manager, not through official channels, not through leadership meetings, but personally, one-on-one. Why would the CEO's partner meet with a branch manager in secret from the CEO himself? The answer was obvious: to agree on something Marcus shouldn't know about. Nia, can you remember anything else strange? Any details that seemed unusual to you then? She frowned, remembering. There was one other thing. A week before I was fired, one of the employees, Lisa, came up to me. She worked as the director's assistant. We were smoking together outside, and she told me in a low voice, Nia, be careful. Something shady is happening here. The director is nervous. His wife is basically on pins and needles. Better not to stick your neck out. I didn't give it any importance then, but now I think maybe she knew something. Is this Lisa still working at the branch? I don't know. After I was fired, I didn't talk to anyone from there. Marcus finished his coffee and looked Nia in the eyes. Nia, I want to offer you a deal. You don't spread word about this conversation. You don't discuss what you saw and what you told me with anyone at all. In exchange, I guarantee you protection and possibly reinstatement at work. Not at the branch. It would be uncomfortable for you there. But at the head office or with me personally. Nia looked at him distrustfully. Why are you helping me? We don't even know each other. Because you told the truth. And because this truth might save my company from people who are trying to seize it. Marcus spoke honestly, without embellishment. I don't know all the details yet, but I feel that someone close is playing against me. Possibly even my wife. And you are the only person who saw what they wanted to hide. Nia was silent, then nodded. Okay, I agree, but I don't want problems. I just want to work and live in peace. I promise, if you stay silent and help me, there will be no problems. They said goodbye. Nia left. Marcus stayed in the cafe for a few more minutes, contemplating what he had heard. Now he had concrete dates written down, details, testimonies. This was enough for Tyrell to start digging deeper. Marcus dialed the security chief's number. Tyrell, I met with the witness. I have exact dates and details. July 23rd, parking lot at the Gallery Shopping Center. Need security camera footage from the lot and surrounding streets. Gray Kia Rio taxi. Also check who came to the branch on July 10th or 11th. Look for Vane's car. Understood. Anything else? Yes. Find out everything about the branch manager's assistant, Lisa. I'll clarify the last name later. She might have known more than she told her colleagues. Will do. Marcus left the cafe and got into his car. Elias was already waiting for him. The company Mercedes had been fixed the previous evening. Where to, Mr. Thorne? To the office. As the car drove through the morning city, Marcus looked out the window and thought about how quickly a world that seemed solid could crumble. Just 2 days ago, he was confident in his wife, in his partner, in his people, and now each of them could turn out to be a traitor. But Marcus wasn't one to give up. He had survived crises, attacks from competitors, and if someone decided they could interfere in his company through intrigue and betrayal, that someone was sorely mistaken. All that was left was to gather all the evidence, and then the real game would begin. Security Chief Tyrell Vance appeared in Marcus's office the next day at exactly noon. Marcus valued him because Tyrell didn't make hasty conclusions, worked only with facts, and never lied. Mr. Thorne. Tyrell closed the door behind him and placed a tablet on the desk. What I found, you're not going to like. Speak. Marcus nodded, preparing for the worst. I'll start with Nia Prentice's termination. I pulled all the documents. Official grounds, gross violation of discipline, client complaint. But here's what's interesting. A complaint really did come in, but only verbally. There are no written confirmations. However, there is a report signed by 2 accounting employees, Olivia Kent and Sarah Dunn. Both claim they heard Prentice being rude to a client on the phone on July 22nd. And on July 22nd, Prentice was on sick leave. She had the day off. She provided a doctor's note after the firing, but HR said it didn't matter since the report was already drawn up. Marcus furrowed his brow. So they fabricated the evidence. Yes, and very clumsily. If Prentice had gone to court, she would have easily won the case, but she didn't. Apparently realized influential people were playing against her. And these 2 employees, Kent and Dunn, are both listed as friends of Elena O'Shea. Regularly go to lunch with her, celebrate holidays together. Basically her people in the branch. Marcus nodded. Everything matched what Nia had told him. What about the security cameras? Tyrell turned on the tablet and angled it toward Marcus. Parking lot at the Gallery Shopping Center, July 23rd, 2:20 p.m. Here's the recording. A black and white image from a surveillance camera appeared on the screen. Marcus saw the parking lot, Rows of cars. Tyrell fast-forwarded to the necessary moment and pressed pause. Here is the gray Kia Rio taxi. License plate matches what I ran through the database. Car is registered to Alliance Taxi Fleet. And here is the woman getting into the back seat. Marcus peered closely. The recording quality wasn't ideal, but the silhouette, the hairstyle, the way she moved. It was Elena O'Shea. He had seen her a few times at corporate parties, remembered her. And here is the man who is already in the car. Tyrell scrolled a little more. When the taxi starts moving, you can see him turn. And right here, if we zoom in. Tyrell zoomed in on the image. On the man's neck, a tattoo was visible. Tongues of fire. Julian Vane, Marcus said quietly. Yes, I compared it with photos from the corporate database. 100% match. His tattoo is distinctive, impossible to confuse. Marcus thought. So it was true. His partner was meeting with the branch manager's wife, secretly in a taxi so as not to be seen. What else? He asked, opening his eyes. I checked the entry and exit logs for the branch territory for July. On Wednesday, July 10th, at 10 in the morning, Vane's car entered the territory. Black BMW X5. He spent 43 minutes in the building, then left. The pass system recorded that he went to the director's office. Kevin O'Shea received him personally? Yes, and the meeting wasn't on the schedule. I checked the calendars. Neither O'Shea nor Vane had this meeting recorded officially. So they were meeting in secret? Looks like it. Marcus stood up and walked to the window. The city below lived its own life. People rushed about their business, not suspecting that a drama was unfolding in one of these skyscrapers. Tyrell, what about Jasmine? Is there a connection between her and Elena O'Shea? Tyrell nodded. There is, a very close one. I pulled the call logs for Elena's corporate phone. She called your wife often. Plus, they met regularly. Based on surveillance maps, I see that Jasmine visited the branch at least 5 times in the last 2 months. Each time she spent from 1 to 3 hours there, mainly in the director's office or in the conference room with Elena. Why would my wife sit at a branch for 3 hours? That I don't know yet. But here's what's interesting. After each of her visits, O'Shea made personnel decisions, fired some, hired others, transferred people to new positions. In total, over 2 months, 12 people were replaced in the branch. 12? Yes, and they mainly fired old employees who worked there even before O'Shea became director, and in their places, they took new ones on Elena's recommendation. Marcus felt anger boiling inside. Jasmine was interfering in his company's personnel issues. Through a friend, through a branch, but interfering. Why? To place her own people? To control information? Tyrell, check all the new employees hired in the last 2 months at the branch. Who are they? Where did they come from? Who recommended them? Pay special attention to those who have access to finances, documents, contracts. Already checking. Tyrell nodded. Preliminary data is this. 3 of them previously worked in companies where Vane was either a co-owner or a consultant. Marcus turned sharply. What? Yes. 1 accountant, 1 lawyer, and 1 client manager. All 3 came on Elena O'Shea's recommendation. All 3 had experience working with Vane's companies. The picture was becoming clearer and more terrifying. Vane was placing his people in Marcus's branch through Elena, gradually, quietly replacing old employees with new ones, those who were loyal not to Marcus, but to Julian. This is preparation for a takeover, Marcus said aloud. Looks like it, Tyrell agreed. They are creating a structure inside your company that is controlled by them. When the time comes, these people will be in key positions and will be able to push through the necessary decisions. What decisions? For example, transferring assets, moving contracts, changing bank details, anything at all. If they have power of attorney and access, they can do a lot. Marcus returned to the desk and sat down. What about powers of attorney? Are there suspicious documents? Tyrell flipped through the tablet. I requested a list of all powers of attorney that were issued in your name over the last year. Most are standard, routine. issued internally to lawyers, accountants, representatives for the IRS. But there is one strange one. Which one? A notarized power of attorney in your name for Julian Vane, issued on August 18th. According to it, he receives the right to sign pledge agreements and liens on company real estate. Marcus frowned. I didn't give such a power of attorney? Are you sure? Absolutely. I never give Julian the right to dispose of real estate without my personal consent. That is one of the key principles. Then we have a problem. Tyrell turned the tablet around. Because here is a scan of the power of attorney, and at the bottom is your signature. Marcus took the tablet and looked carefully at the document. The power of attorney was drawn up correctly with a notary's seal, and at the bottom there really was a signature very similar to his. But he hadn't signed this. He was sure. It's a forgery, Marcus said. My signature, but not my hand. Can you prove it? I can. I have a handwriting analysis we did for the insurance company 3 years ago. There are samples of my real signature there. We can compare. Good. I'll organize an expert analysis. But even if it's a forgery, the question remains, how did they get a power of attorney with your forged signature? The notary should have verified the identity. Marcus thought. Tyrell, check who came to the notary, Ms. Sherman, on August 18th to execute this document. Who was there instead of me? Already checking. According to the notary office records, on August 18th, a man came to Sherman who introduced himself as Marcus Thorne, presented a passport, and signed in the presence of the notary. Sherman witnessed the signature. Did she see this person? Yes, I already contacted her. She said the man presented a passport, with your last name and initials. Someone impersonated me, Marcus said slowly. With a fake ID or with a real one that was stolen? Is your passport with you? Marcus took out his wallet, checked. The passport was there. Yes. So they have a forgery, or someone close to you gave them access to documents, Tyrell added quietly. Marcus looked at him. Close ones. Wife. Jasmine had access to his home office, to the safe, to documents. She knew where he kept his passport, where the seals lay, where the office keys were. Could she really? Tyrell, August 18th. Where was I that day? Tyrell checked the calendar. You were on a business trip, Boston, negotiations with suppliers. You flew out on the morning of the 17th, returned on the evening of the 19th. And Jasmine? Jasmine was home. According to security data, she didn't go anywhere these 2 days. So, while Marcus was on a business trip, someone took advantage of his absence and executed a fake power of attorney for Vane. Someone who had access to his documents, someone who was in the house and resembled him. Marcus stood up and paced the office. His head was buzzing from the information, from the betrayal, from the realization of how deep this scheme went. Tyrell, what can they do with this power of attorney? A lot. Mortgage company real estate, register an encumbrance, get a loan secured by assets. If the power of attorney is real from the notary's point of view, banks and registration authorities will accept it without questions. So they can drain the assets. Yes. Gradually, through pledges and loans, they can transfer all company property under the control of Vane or shell structures. Marcus understood. So this wasn't just Vane's affair with Elena. It was a thought-out scheme to seize the business. Julian, Elena, possibly Jasmine. All of them acted in concert, step by step preparing the ground, placing their people in the branch, removing inconvenient witnesses, forging powers of attorney, gaining access. And when everything was ready, they would strike quickly, hard, so that Marcus wouldn't have time to react. But now he knew. Thanks to a chance meeting with a taxi driver, thanks to a car breakdown, thanks to this thin thread of truth, he learned of their plans, and now he had a chance to seize the initiative. Tyrell, Marcus said, returning to the desk, I want you to do a few things. First, organize an expert analysis of the signature on the power of attorney. I need an official conclusion that it is a forgery. Second, gather a dossier on all new employees of the branch, their connections, their past, their contacts with Vane. Third, track all of Jasmine's movements for the last month. Who she met with, where she went, who she talked to. Consider it done. And Tyrell, not a word to anyone about our investigation yet, even the lawyers. If they realize I know, they'll accelerate their plans or go into the shadows. I need them to feel safe. Understood. I'll work quietly. Good. Let's meet the day after tomorrow, on Friday. By that time, you'll have all the data. I'll try. Tyrell left, and Marcus remained alone in the office. He looked at the tablet, at the photo of Vane and Elena in the taxi, and felt a cold fury growing inside. They thought he was blind, that he wouldn't notice how he was being betrayed, that they could steal his business through intrigue and forgery. But they were wrong. Marcus Thorne wasn't one to give up without a fight, and if they started a war, he would finish it, on his terms. Friday began with an unexpected call from Vane. Marcus was sitting in his office, reviewing the morning reports, when his partner's name lit up on the phone screen. He picked up, trying to maintain his usual intonation. "Julian, good morning." "Hey, Marcus." Vane's voice sounded cheerful and friendly, as always. "Listen, I need to meet with you today. There's an important question regarding a new contract." "What contract?" "Remember we discussed equipment supplies from Germany? An interesting financing option turned up there. But we need to decide fast. The Germans are rushing us." Marcus frowned. They hadn't discussed any contract with Germany, at least not recently. "Julian, I don't recall such a conversation." "Oh, come on. We talked about it 3 weeks ago at the meeting." Vane spoke confidently, without a shadow of doubt. "You said then that the idea was good, but we needed to calculate the risks." "Well, I calculated them. Let's meet today. I'll show you the numbers." Marcus understood. So Vane was trying to push through some deal they had supposedly agreed upon. Most likely, this was part of the plan to execute documents that would give him additional levers of control. "All right," Marcus said calmly. "Come to the office at 3 o'clock. We'll discuss it." "Excellent. I'll be there." Marcus hung up and immediately dialed Tyrell. "Vane is asking for a meeting today at 3, talking about some contract with Germany that didn't happen. I think he'll try to pull something." "I'll be nearby," Tyrell answered briefly. "I already have the expert materials ready. The signature on the power of attorney is a forgery. This is confirmed officially. Also, I gathered dossiers on the new branch employees. All of them are connected to Vane through past jobs or through references." "Good. Come to me at 2:30, before the meeting with Vane. Let's see what you have." At 2:30, Tyrell brought a thick folder of documents. "Here is the handwriting analysis." He laid the official conclusion on the desk. "The signature on the power of attorney from August 18th was not executed by you. The expert established at least 7 signs of forgery: pressure, slant, connection of letters. This can be used in court." "Excellent. What else?" "Here is the dossier on the branch employees. Accountant Ian Tate worked at Vector Trade, where Vane was a minority shareholder. Lawyer Ann Bell did an internship at the law firm that services all of Vane's companies. Manager Damon Kay is the son of Vane's former partner in another business." Marcus flipped through the documents, and the picture became clearer. Vane had placed a whole network of his people in the branch. The accountant controlled finances, the lawyer, documents, the manager, clients. If you added Director O'Shea, who acted on his wife's orders, and Elena herself, who was friends with Jasmine, you got a closed system. What about Jasmine's movements? Tyrell took out another folder. Over the last month, Jasmine met with Elena O'Shea 8 times. 4 meetings were in restaurants, 3 at the branch, 1 at your home. Also, she spoke on the phone with Vane twice. Short conversations, 2 to 3 minutes. Marcus felt everything tighten inside. Jasmine called Julian directly. Why would a wife call her husband's partner if there was no work necessity? When were these calls? The first on August 20th, the day after you returned from Boston. The second on September 3rd, a Wednesday. Marcus remembered. On August 20th, He really did return from the business trip in the evening, and the next day Jasmine was home all day, said she wasn't feeling well. He even offered to call a doctor, but she refused. Now it was clear why she was on the phone with Vane, most likely coordinating actions after executing the fake power of attorney. "Tyrell, I need to catch them red-handed," Marcus said. "If Vane tries to put through a deal today, I'll let him do it, but under control, so there is documentary confirmation of his actions." "You want him to sign something compromising?" "Exactly. Let him think I don't know anything. Let him act, and we will record his every step." "Risky. If he manages to put the documents through registration, it will be hard to reverse." "I know, but we'll have proof of his malicious intent." "That's more important." Tyrell nodded. "Okay. I'll organize a covert recording of the meeting, camera and voice recorder. Everything will be documented." "Do it." At exactly 3 o'clock, Vane walked into Marcus's office. He was dressed in an expensive suit, looked confident and calm, the usual friendly smile on his face. "Marcus, hello." Vane extended a hand for a handshake. Marcus shook it, trying not to betray his tension. "Sit down, Julian. I'm listening." Vane took a folder of documents out of his briefcase and laid them on the desk. "So, look, the German company, Schneider Technology, is ready to supply us with equipment totaling 15 million euros. It's a line for manufacturing components that will pay for itself in 2 years. But there's a nuance. They require payment guarantees." "What guarantees?" "Real estate collateral, specifically the warehouse complex on the I-90 corridor. It's on our company's balance sheet. Appraised value of $25 million. We provide the collateral, they supply the equipment, we pay off over 2 years. The lien is removed." Marcus took the documents and began to study them. The contract looked solid. Seals, signatures, banking details of the German company. But something about it was off. "Julian, why does the contract state that the Morgagor is not our company, but some firm Alpha Holding?" Vane didn't even blink. "It's a technical structure. It's easier to process the deal through it, fewer tax risks. Alpha Holding is our subsidiary, everything is clean." "I don't know any such subsidiary. We registered it in July. Remember, I told you about the need to create a structure for optimization. You approved." Marcus hadn't approved. He hadn't heard anything about this at all, but he didn't argue right now. "Okay, and who signs on the side of Alpha Holding?" "Me. I have the power of attorney in your name after all." But Marcus had given a power of attorney for completely different purposes, and he remembered that. And Vane had that very same forged power of attorney, which had completely different rights and goals. So Vane intended to use it to register the real estate pledge to a shell firm, and if this went through, the warehouse complex would effectively pass under Vane's control. "Julian, I need time to think," Marcus said, setting the documents aside. "This is a serious deal. I can't make a decision in 5 minutes." Vane frowned. "Marcus, the Germans are waiting for an answer by Monday. If we don't sign now, they'll go to competitors. Monday is just 3 days away. I'll study the documents, consult with lawyers, and give an answer." "The lawyers already checked everything." Vane tapped his finger on the papers. "Here is their conclusion. Everything is clean." Marcus took the conclusion. Signature at the bottom. Anne Bell, the very lawyer from the branch who was connected to Vane. "I want Peter Caldwell to look at the documents," Marcus said, referring to his personal lawyer whom he trusted completely. "Caldwell is on vacation right now," Vane replied quickly. "He left for 2 weeks. I checked." Marcus knew that was a lie. Caldwell wasn't planning any vacation, so Vane was trying to cut him off from reliable advisors. "Then I'll wait for his return." "Marcus, what? Do you not trust me?" Offense appeared in Vane's voice. "We've been working together so many years. Do I wish you harm?" Marcus looked him in the eyes. Vane played the role perfectly. Sincere offense, bewilderment, even slight anger. A true actor. "I trust you, Julian, but this is my business, and I make the decision myself. Give me the weekend, I'll study everything and answer on Monday." Vane was silent, then nodded. Fine. But keep in mind, if we miss this deal, we won't get it back. The Germans won't wait. I understand. Vane gathered the documents, leaving copies for Marcus, and left. When the door closed, Marcus exhaled and pressed a button on a remote. Tyrell walked out of the adjacent room where he had been watching and recording the entire meeting. Did you catch everything? Yes. Video and audio of excellent quality, especially the moment where he talks about the power of attorney and about Alpha Holding. Good. Now check this company, Alpha Holding. Who are the founders? When was it registered? What accounts? Tyrell opened his laptop and found the information in a few minutes. Alpha Holding was registered on July 25th. Founder, Julian Vane, 100% share. General Director, also Vane. Legal address is a mass registration site. There are 300 firms at that one address. It's not a subsidiary of our group? No, it's Vane's personal firm, in no way connected to your business. Marcus smirked. So Vane wanted to register the warehouse complex pledge to his personal firm, effectively stealing real estate worth $25 million. And the German company, Schneider Technology, does it exist? Tyrell checked. Yes, it exists, but it hasn't conducted active business for the last 3 years. The website isn't updated, contacts are old. Looks like a shell structure. So the entire contract is fiction. Yes, Vane created the appearance of a deal to get a pledge on the real estate using the new power of attorney. Then he could say the deal fell through, the Germans changed their minds, but the pledge remained, and the warehouse complex would pass into his ownership. Marcus stood up and walked to the window. Vane's plan was cunning, but not perfect. Too many tracks, too many inconsistencies. If Marcus didn't know the truth, he might have believed it. But now every word of Vane's looked like a lie. Tyrell, block all operations with company real estate. I'll give the order to the legal department and the registry. No deals with our assets are to be conducted without my personal presence and signature, and we need to find the person who was at the notary instead of me with my or a fake passport. Consider it done. And one more thing. Tomorrow, Saturday, I want to hold an emergency meeting with key people. Invite Caldwell, Chief Accountant Helen Mercer, Head of Legal Isaac Sterling. Everyone I can trust. We'll discuss strategy. And Vane? Don't invite Vane. Let him think I'm studying his documents. In the meantime, we'll prepare a counterstrike. Tyrell nodded and left. Marcus remained alone. He looked at the city, at the sunset sky, and thought about how quickly everything changes. A week ago, he lived in the confidence that his world was solid, and now that world was bursting at the seams. But Marcus didn't intend to give up, and no one, not Vane, not Elena, not even Jasmine, would take away from him what was his. It was time to go on the offensive. Saturday turned out to be tense. Marcus gathered 4 people in his office whom he trusted unconditionally. Tyrell Vance, Attorney Peter Caldwell, Chief Accountant Helen Mercer, and Head of Legal Isaac Sterling. All of them had been with him from the very beginning, when the company was just starting. Marcus laid out all the materials before them: camera recordings, handwriting analysis, dossiers on branch employees, the forged power of attorney, the fake contract with the German company. So, friends, he began when everyone had studied the documents, the situation is this. My partner, Julian Vane, together with the branch manager's wife, Elena O'Shea, and possibly my wife, Jasmine, were preparing a takeover of the company. They were placing their people, forging powers of attorney, trying to drain assets. Question: how do we stop this? Peter Caldwell, a gray-haired man with a shrewd gaze, was the first to speak. Mr. Thorne, we have 2 paths. First is criminal. We go to the police with a statement about forgery of documents, fraud, abuse of power. They open a case, Vane gets arrested, an investigation begins, but that is long, loud, and the company's reputation will suffer. The second path is civil legal. We act through the court and corporate mechanisms. Interim measures, ban on registration of deals, expulsion of Vane from the participants, division of assets. It's quieter, faster, and we control the process. Marcus nodded. I'm for the second path. I don't want the company to become a subject of the crime beat. What needs to be done? Caldwell opened a notepad. First, we file a lawsuit to recognize the power of attorney as invalid. We have the expertise. That's a strong argument. Simultaneously, we file for interim measures, a ban on any registration actions with company real estate. Second, Helen Mercer chimed in, we block all financial operations in which Vane participates. I'll give the order to the banks. Any payments and transfers he initiates must go through my personal approval. Third, Isaac Sterling joined in, we revoke all active powers of attorney in Vane's name. He loses the right to sign documents on behalf of the company, and we conduct an internal audit of all deals he concluded over the last 6 months. Tyrell Vance added, Fourth, we fire all branch employees connected to Vane, Tate, Bell, Kay. They are his agents of influence. They are dangerous. And branch manager O'Shea? Marcus asked. O'Shea goes too, Tyrell said harshly. He acted under pressure from his wife, but that's no excuse. He signed fake documents, fired honest employees. He cannot be trusted. Marcus nodded in agreement. Good. We launch everything on Monday. Now, a personal question. My wife. How do I handle her? Peter Caldwell looked at him with sympathy. Mr. Thorne, if Jasmine was participating in the scheme, you need to act decisively. Talk to her, and then draw conclusions. The meeting lasted another 2 hours. They discussed every step, every risk, every detail. When everyone dispersed, Marcus remained alone in the office. He looked at the stack of documents and understood that tomorrow war would begin, a real one, without rules and mercy. On Sunday evening, Marcus returned home late. Jasmine was sitting in the living room flipping through a magazine. When he walked in, she looked up and smiled. Where have you been all day? I called, you didn't pick up. Working, Marcus answered briefly, taking off his jacket. On Sunday? She frowned. You promised we'd spend the weekend together. Marcus looked at her. Beautiful, groomed, self-confident woman, his wife of 8 years. Jasmine didn't want children, said it would interfere with her career, freedom, life. Right now, he looked at her and saw a stranger, a person who had betrayed him. Jasmine, we need to talk, he said. About what? About us? About our marriage. She put the magazine aside. Alarm flashed in her eyes. What happened? I know about you and Vane. About Elena. About the scheme with the branch. Jasmine went pale. She was silent for a few seconds, then exhaled and looked up. From where? Doesn't matter. What matters is that I know. She laughed, shortly, maliciously. So what now? Going to kick me out? Depends on what you tell me. What exactly do you want to know? How long has this been going on? And don't lie, please. Don't pretend. I know everything. Marcus explained in detail that he was aware of all Vane's machinations, his connection with Elena, and their friendship. He showed her the photo of the kiss in the taxi, the number of their contacts. The only thing is, tell me who was at the notary instead of me. If you don't say, I'll find out anyway, but then I'll file a police report about your participation in this crime. Fine. She stood up, paced the room. A year. It's been going on a year. Instead of you, Vane hired an actor in makeup with a fake passport. Why? Marcus asked. What were you missing? You were never home. You looked at me like a piece of furniture, like a mop or a nightstand. Marcus exhaled. We're getting a divorce. Then I demand half. Business, real estate, accounts. We split everything 50-50. You won't get it, Marcus said calmly. I have proof of your participation in a scheme against the company. That is bad faith conduct. The court will take it into account. Jasmine stopped and looked at him with hatred. You think you're so smart? Do you even understand who you messed with? Vane will crush you. He has connections, money, people. You are nobody to him. We'll see. Marcus turned toward the exit. Tomorrow, I'm filing for divorce. "Pack your things! This is my house!" she shouted after him. "Was yours, now no." Marcus walked out of the living room and went up to the bedroom. Jasmine stayed downstairs, and he heard her talking on the phone. Quickly, nervously, most likely calling Vane or Elena, warning them they had been exposed. He took his phone and called his lawyer. "I talked to my wife. File for divorce with a simultaneous request for interim measures. Ban on removing property, freezing of accounts, ban on disposing of business shares. Otherwise, she might try to take half in the division." "She has a right to half." "Formally, yes, it's joint property, but we can prove the business was created before the marriage and she didn't participate in its development. Plus her bad faith conduct, participation in a scheme against you, that is grounds for reducing her share." "How much can she get in the end?" "If we build the defense correctly, half of the jointly acquired property. The business will remain yours." Marcus exhaled. He bought the house before the marriage. Property, furniture, clothes, let her take them. The main thing was to keep control of the company. Marcus started a mechanism that was impossible to stop. On Monday morning, the operation began. At 9 a.m., Peter Caldwell filed a motion for interim measures in court. Marcus revoked all his powers of attorney in Vane's name at the notary. Soon the court imposed a freeze on all real estate deals for the company. At 10 a.m., Helen Mercer sent notifications to the banks blocking any operations initiated by Vane. At 11 a.m., Isaac Sterling sent Vane an official letter regarding the revocation of powers of attorney. At 12, Tyrell Vance handed termination notices to Tate, Bell, and Kay. All three were shocked, tried to object, but the company lawyers acted precisely. Violation of labor discipline, conflict of interest, loss of trust. Kevin O'Shea received his termination notice at 1 p.m. He came to the head office, tried to explain himself to Marcus, but Marcus refused to see him. "Tell him I acted under pressure," O'Shea told the guard at the office doors. "That's no excuse," the guard answered coldly, and escorted the former branch manager to the exit. Julian Vane showed up at 3 in the afternoon. He burst into Marcus's office without knocking, his face red with anger. "What are you doing?" he yelled. "You blocked all my accounts, revoked powers of attorney, fired my people." "Your people shouldn't be in my company," Marcus answered calmly, not getting up from his desk. "I was your partner." "Was. Now no. I am buying out your share. Here is the independent appraiser's valuation." Marcus held out a document to him. $5 million. That's a fair price." Vane grabbed the paper, ran his eyes over it, and threw it on the desk. "My share is worth 3 times that." "It was worth that before you tried to steal my real estate through a fake contract and a forged power of attorney. Now I've filed in court. If you don't agree to the buyout voluntarily, we go through court and police, and then you won't get anything at all, because I will prove your fraud." Vane stood breathing heavily. There was malice, helplessness, fury in his eyes. "You'll regret this," he wheezed. "No," Marcus shook his head. "You will regret it. You have 3 days to think. Either you sign the buyout agreement or we meet at the police station. Choose." Vane turned around and walked out, slamming the door. Marcus watched him go and felt relief. The worst was behind him. The rest was technique. A week later, Vane signed the agreement. He didn't want police and court proceedings that would reveal his schemes to the entire business community. He received $5 million, but lost access to a business that could have brought in hundreds of millions. Jasmine also agreed to the divorce. Her lawyers tried to bargain, but Caldwell was relentless. Either decent compensation and a quiet divorce, or court with full disclosure of her participation in the scheme. Jasmine chose the first. She received a 1-bedroom condo, a car, and a cash settlement, and disappeared from Marcus's life. Elena O'Shea also suffered. Her husband filed for divorce upon learning of the affair with Vane, and Nia Prentice received an offer she couldn't refuse. On Friday, 2 weeks after the start of the operation, Marcus invited her to his office. "Nia, I want to thank you," he said when she entered. Without you, I wouldn't have known the truth, wouldn't have been able to protect my company. Nia smiled shyly. I just told what I saw. You did more. You weren't afraid to tell the truth, even though you had already been punished for it once. Therefore, I want to offer you a job, not at the branch, but here, at the head office, as my personal driver. Nia looked at him in surprise. Personal driver? Yes. Good salary, benefits, corporate housing if needed. You will drive only me, no side jobs, and I guarantee no one will ever fire you unfairly again. Nia was silent, then nodded. I agree. Thank you, Mr. Thorne. Thank you, Nia. They shook hands. Marcus looked out the window at the city. The storm had passed. The traitors were punished, the company saved, life went on. He had lost a wife, lost a partner, but kept the main thing, his life's work, his honor, his freedom. And beside him now was a person he could trust. Nia Prentice, a random taxi driver who became his driver. Marcus Thorne learned the lesson. Betrayal comes from where you don't expect it. But the truth is always stronger than the lie if you have enough courage to fight for it. If you liked my story and want to hear more, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. If you'd like to support me, you can do it through Super Thanks. It would mean a lot. In the comments, tell me which city you're watching from and what time it is, so I can see how far my story reaches. I've added 2 more life stories on the screen just for you. Click one now, and let's keep spending time together. Much love. See you soon.